One message, 1 year, one wound. I love you, Jungkook breaks Jimin in the middle of the night, crescent envelope wilted broken. I love you. The message lit up Jimin's phone at 2:13 a.m., slicing through the stillness like a knife through wet silk. He stared at the screen, mouth slightly ajar, hands trembling not from elation, but from a familiar dread that crawled up his spine like cold fingers. The room was silent, save for the humming of the air conditioner and the echo of his own heartbeat. Outside, the city of Seoul was sleeping, but inside Jimin's apartment, something had just woken up. Something old. Something he had buried a year ago in the graveyard of what-ifs and almosts. His thumb hovered above the screen, afraid to touch it. Not because of the words, he had imagined Jungkook saying them 1,000 times, but because of when they came. Now was too late. Now was cruel. Rain had just begun to fall, tapping gently against the window like hesitant knuckles. Jimin's breath fogged the glass as he stood, staring out into the blur of neon and tears, wondering if this was some twisted dream or a calculated confession meant to destroy him again. 12 months ago, Jungkook had left without a word. No warning, no goodbye, just gone, vanishing like smoke in wind, leaving Jimin with unanswered questions and a heart half dead from the waiting. And now, one message, 4 words, as if those could rewind time, as if those could unbreak him. He didn't reply. Instead, he opened the drawer beneath his bed and pulled out the worn Polaroid, creased, stained at the edges, the ink beginning to fade. It was taken during a summer that felt like it belonged to someone else. Jungkook's smile in it wasn't for the camera. It was for him. That's what made it unbearable. The photo slipped from his fingers as he sank to the floor, knees to his chest, the room spinning. His mind raced with flashbacks. Jungkook's laughter in the kitchen at 3 a.m., the warm pressure of his hand during train rides, the way he used to whisper Jimin's name like it was a prayer. And the silence after, a year of it. It had hollowed Jimin out, left him tracing phantom memories like Braille, hopping to find meaning in absence. But nothing came, only the emptiness. His therapist had warned him, closure doesn't come from others, it comes from within. But what did she know about being haunted by a love that ended without punctuation? He rose shakily, wiped his face, and dialed a number he promised never to call again. His thumb paused before pressing the final digit. No, not like this. Jimin threw his phone across the room. It bounced off the couch and landed face down on the carpet, mercifully silent. But the wound had already reopened. Back then, Jungkook had said he needed to find himself, whatever the hell that meant. He left Jimin to navigate the ruins of their shared life alone, piecing together some semblance of meaning in a world where mornings were cruel and nights were worse. And now this. I love you. Jimin laughed, bitter and cracked. He could almost taste the blood on those words. In a different life, he would have run to him. Tonight, he shut the lights off, climbed into bed, and let the darkness cradle him in something close to comfort. The rain outside grew heavier, relentless, like it too was grieving. His last thought before sleep took him was this. Love shouldn't arrive as an apology. And certainly not in the middle of the night. Open the door, Jimin, please. The voice was unmistakable. Smooth, low, laced with the ache of someone who hadn't slept in days. But it was the silence that followed, the space between the syllables, that cracked Jimin's composure like glass under pressure. He didn't move. Jungkook knocked again, harder this time. I know you're in there. Jimin's back pressed against the other side of the door, fists clenched so tightly his nails drew crescents into his palms. The apartment around him stood frozen, humid with tension, the scent of burnt coffee still lingering in the air from a breakfast he hadn't touched. It had only been 9 hours since the message. 9. And now Jungkook was here, standing just beyond the threshold of the life he'd once abandoned. Jimin wondered what he looked like now, more tired, more beautiful, more cruel. The door handle turned, but caught against the lock. I shouldn't have sent the text like that, Jungkook said, voice breaking. But I had to start somewhere. Start, Jimin hissed under his breath. You ended everything. He stepped away from the door, shaking, packing the floor like a storm barely held in check. I need to explain. There's nothing left to explain. I need to see you. And I needed you when you disappeared. Jimin's voice cracked like thunder. But you weren't there, so what makes now different? A long pause. Then, because this time, I won't run. Jimin stopped cold. His heartbeat screamed against the silence. He knew better. Knew not to believe someone who left without warning. Knew not to fall for ghosts wearing familiar skin. But damn it, he still wanted to open the door. He did. The click of the lock was louder than any scream. The door creaked open, just wide enough for the past to seep in. Jungkook stood there, soaked from the rain, dressed in black, eyes rimmed red like he'd clawed his way out of grief just to stand here. They stared at each other, two galaxies in collision. Jimin was the first to speak. You've got 5 minutes. Jungkook stepped inside slowly, as if afraid the floor would collapse beneath his feet. He smelled like wet pavement and regret. He didn't sit, neither did Jimin. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you, Jungkook said. I left because I was terrified of how much I did. Jimin laughed, sharp and humorless. Do you want a medal for that? I was losing myself, Jimin. Every part of me was wrapped around you. I looked in the mirror and didn't know who the hell I was anymore. And whose fault was that? Jungkook's voice rose, his defenses cracking. You think it was easy for me? I was suffocating, between the fame, the pressure, the fear of becoming someone I hated. I thought if I could just breathe, if I could think, maybe I could come back to you as someone better. Then why didn't you say that? Jimin snapped, stepping forward. Why did you vanish like I was some mistake you regretted making? Because I was a coward, Jungkook admitted, quiet now. And because I knew if I looked at you, I'd never leave, even if I needed to. Jimin's face twisted, tears threatening. You don't get to show up now and expect this to be some kind of redemption arc. I don't expect anything. I needed you to know I never stopped loving you. Then you should have loved me better. The silence that followed was a wound neither of them could stitch shut. Then Jungkook took a step closer, voice almost a whisper. Are you with someone else now? The question hit harder than it should have. No, Jimin said, but that doesn't mean I'm waiting for you. Do you still think about me? Jungkook asked, desperation in his tone. Even once. Jimin looked him dead in the eyes. Every goddamn night. Jungkook closed the space between them in 2 heartbeats, but Jimin's hand was already up, firm against his chest. Don't think a confession heals the damage. I'm not here to erase what I did, Jungkook whispered, eyes pleading. I just want a chance to rebuild, even if it takes forever. Jimin stared at him for a long moment, then stepped back. You don't get forever. You get tonight, and then we see if there's anything left to rebuild. Jungkook nodded. They stood there, 2 broken men staring across the wreckage of what once was, unsure if it could ever be whole again. But for the first time in a year, they were both breathing the same air. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. You let me rot, Jungkook. Jimin's words hung in the air like smoke after a fire, sharp, suffocating, and impossible to ignore. He stood by the window, arms crossed over his chest, looking out at the city lights as if they could offer him something Jungkook couldn't. Peace. I was broken too, Jimin. Jungkook's voice came from behind him, low and tight, like a wire stretched too far. He hadn't moved from the entryway, as if stepping further inside might unravel whatever fragile thread kept this night from turning into a war zone. No, Jimin turned, eyes blazing. You were selfish. You chose silence over honesty, absence over effort. Jungkook walked further in now, slow, deliberate. His gaze never left Jimin's face. You want honesty, he said, jaw clenched. Fine, I loved you so much it felt like drowning. Every day I woke up afraid you'd see through me, see that I wasn't enough, that I was spiraling. You want me to say I ran because I was weak? Then yes, I was weak. Jimin's voice cracked. And I was what? Strong. While you were out finding yourself, I was scraping myself off the floor. Do you know how humiliating it was to keep smiling in front of everyone, pretending I wasn't bleeding inside? Jungkook stepped closer. You think I didn't feel guilt every day? You think I slept at night? You didn't even call me on my birthday. Jungkook froze. The silence between them detonated. He began, but Jimin cut him off. No, don't speak. You don't get to excuse forgetting the one day I prayed you'd remember. I didn't forget, Jungkook said, voice barely audible. I wrote you a message, deleted it. Of course you did, Jimin snapped. Cowards do that. The tension was combustible. Everything about them felt too loud, too raw, their breaths, the distance, the pain. It was a room of old love and fresh wounds. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I came back because I couldn't breathe without you. That's not romantic. That's pathetic, Jimin spat. You should have stayed gone. Then why did you open the door? Because I wanted to see if I could look at you without falling apart, Jimin said. And guess what? I can't. Jungkook's eyes darkened. So punish me then. Yell, hit me, I deserve it. But don't pretend you don't still love me. I don't know what I feel anymore. Jungkook stepped forward, voice fierce. You do. You always knew. You were the one who fought for us while you ran. Jimin's words landed like a slap. Suddenly, Jungkook grabbed his phone from his pocket, hands shaking. You think I didn't carry you with me? He opened the voice memos. You want to hear something? He pressed play. Jimin's voice filled the room. Laughing, singing. From a recording, maybe from one of their hidden late-night moments, when the world felt like theirs alone. I listened to this every night. Your voice was the only thing that kept me sane, Jungkook confessed, eyes burning. Jimin stared, stunned. You recorded me. I recorded us, because I knew I would ruin everything, and I needed a way back to you. Jimin turned away, overwhelmed. You think pain can be reversed just because you're finally feeling it now? No, but I'd bleed for you if that's what it takes. You already did, Jimin whispered, more to himself than to Jungkook. And so did I. Jungkook took another step, close now, too close. Then let's stop bleeding and start healing. I don't know how, Jimin confessed, eyes shining with unshed tears. You taught me how to love and leave, but not how to forgive. I'll stay, Jungkook whispered. As long as it takes. Even if you never forgive me, I'll stay. I'll earn back every piece of you I shattered. Jimin didn't respond. He just walked past Jungkook and opened the bedroom door. You can sleep here, he said quietly. Not beside me, just here. I don't want to be alone tonight. Jungkook nodded, unable to speak. The weight of that small mercy hit him harder than any scream. And as Jimin lay in bed with his back turned, Jungkook sat in the armchair in the dark, watching the rise and fall of Jimin's breath. Both of them wide awake. Both of them trapped between the past and something dangerously close to hope. Somewhere in the silence, the rain began to fall again. But this time, neither of them moved to close the window. Jimin woke to the sound of breathing, not his own, deeper, familiar. His body tensed before his mind fully returned. Sunlight bled through the half-closed blinds, golden and sharp, catching on the corner of the bed where the sheet had slipped to reveal a memory of skin. For a second, he thought it was a dream. The way the room smelled like rain and regret. The way the silence felt stretched, like someone had exhaled and never inhaled again. He turned his head. Jungkook was still there. Not in the bed, but curled in the armchair, arms crossed over his chest, chin tucked down. His mouth was slightly parted. His lashes fluttered like he was running through something even sleep couldn't calm. Jimin watched him, watched the way time had chiseled sharper angles into his face, but left the softness in his mouth untouched. Starring is dangerous, Jungkook mumbled without opening his eyes. You snore, Jimin shot back, sitting up. No, I don't. You did, and you talk in your sleep. Jungkook cracked an eye open. What did I say? Jimin hesitated, then stood. You kept saying my name. Jungkook looked away, eyes glassy. I always do. Jimin hated the way that hit him, like a fire in a house already burned down. They stood in the quiet of morning like strangers trying to remember a shared dream. Jimin poured 2 cups of coffee, handed one to Jungkook without looking at him. He didn't say thank you. Jimin didn't expect him to. "You look tired," Jimin said, sipping. "You look angry." "I am." "Good," Jungkook replied, taking a sip. "Anger means you care." Jimin laughed bitterly. "That's what they told me in therapy. Anger is a secondary emotion. Beneath it is pain." Jungkook stared into his cup like it held the answers. "What do you want from me, Jimin? You opened the door, you let me stay. But now what?" "I don't know," Jimin admitted. "Maybe I want to hurt you the way you hurt me. Maybe I want you to feel what I felt." "Then do it," Jungkook said suddenly. "Say the things you've been holding back. Use me like a mirror and smash it." "You want pain." "I want honesty." Jimin's eyes burned. "Fine, you want the truth. I hated you. I hated that you made me feel like I was the problem, like I was too much. I checked your location every night knowing you turned it off. I talked to your voicemail. I looked for you in every crowd like some lovesick idiot. And when you didn't come back, I blamed myself." Jungkook closed his eyes, jaw tight. "I blamed myself," Jimin repeated, voice shaking. "For you leaving." "I never stopped loving you," Jungkook said, voice raw. "But I hated myself, and I couldn't stand bringing that version of me into your life." "Then you should, right quote, V trusted me to handle the truth." "You would, right quote, V tried to save me." "I wanted to save you," Jimin cried, "but you wouldn't let me in." "I was drowning," Jungkook whispered, "and I thought dragging you down with me would destroy you." "You destroyed me anyway." They stood in the kitchen, breathless, the coffee gone cold between their hands. Neither moved. Then Jungkook walked forward and placed something on the counter, a worn leather notebook. Jimin looked at it like it was a grenade. "What's that?" "My cowardice," Jungkook said. "All the things I wrote but never sent, letters, apologies, ugly truths, I wrote to you every week." Jimin didn't touch it. "You think words fix this?" he asked. "No," Jungkook said, "but I think silence ruins everything." Jimin opened the first page. His name stared back at him in looping handwriting. "Dear Jimin, I still sleep on the left side of the bed, just in case you come back." The ache was instant. He closed the book, hands trembling. "You don't get to write your way out of this." "I know. I don't forgive you." "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance." Jimin turned to him. "Then do something you've never done." Jungkook waited. "Stay," Jimin said. "Don't run when I scream. Don't disappear when I break. Stay through the ugly, through the silence, through the nights when I won't even look at you. Can you do that?" Jungkook stepped closer, eyes brimming. "I'll stay through hell if it means walking beside you again." "You don't deserve me," Jimin whispered. "I know," Jungkook replied, "but I still love you." Jimin wanted to slap him, kiss him, scream, hide all at once. Instead, he picked up the notebook and walked into the living room, curling into the corner of the couch. "You can sleep here again," he said, "but tomorrow you clean the bathroom and cook." Jungkook blinked, surprised. "Okay." "And you explain the letter on page 17. Jungkook right quote, a smile cracked, tentative but real. "Page 17. You wrote, 'I kissed someone else.'" The room dropped into dead silence. Jimin didn't look up. "You said you wanted honesty, then start now, or leave." Jungkook stood still, haunted. And then he said it. "I did, once. I was drunk. It meant nothing. I hated myself for it the second it happened." Jimin closed the notebook, slow and cold. "Get out," he said. "Jimin." "Get out." Jungkook stood there for a moment too long. Then he left. And this time, Jimin didn't cry. He just sat there, the notebook on his lap, and opened it again. Because even when someone shatters you, there's always a part of you that still wants to understand why. The door slammed shut so hard it rattled the picture frames. Jimin didn't flinch. Not this time. Not after what he heard. Not after "I kissed someone else" echoed through the walls like a cursed melody. He sat there, alone again, the notebook heavy in his lap. its pages now tainted by the one sentence he could never unhear. Outside, the sun had lost its shine. Clouds gathered like vultures. Inside, the silence felt like punishment. It was the kind of silence that mocked you, loud in all the wrong ways. He opened to page 17. It was a mistake. I needed to feel nothing, and I thought lips that weren't yours would numb the pain. Instead, I threw up afterward. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. She asked me if I was okay, and all I wanted to scream was, "No, I'm in love with someone I destroyed." Jimin read it twice, then a third time. He didn't cry. He stood up, grabbed his phone, and texted Namjoon. "Come over, now no questions." 15 minutes later, Namjoon walked in without knocking. He took one look at Jimin's face and knew better than to say, "Are you okay?" Jimin handed him the notebook. "Read page 17. Namjoon sat, scanning quickly, then slower, then stopped. "Well," Namjoon exhaled, "at least he admitted it. He always admits things when it's too late. Do you want to talk about it?" "No, I want to forget it." Namjoon closed the book, his voice soft. "That's not how it works." "I let him in," Jimin said, hollow. "I told myself maybe, just maybe, he deserved a second chance. Then I find out that while I was begging the universe for a sign he still loved me, he had his mouth on someone else. He says it meant nothing. That's the part that hurts the most, that I meant everything and he still did it." Namjoon stayed silent, not because he didn't have anything to say, but because sometimes silence is the only language heartbreak understands. Jimin stood up. His movements were sudden, erratic. He began packing. "You know the worst part? If he had told me earlier, if he had been honest, I think I would have forgiven him. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. But now..." Jimin's eyes were steel. "Now, I don't know if I'll ever look at him without seeing her." Namjoon leaned forward, elbows on knees. "So what do you want to do?" "I want to bury every version of him I ever loved." The doorbell rang. Jimin's breath hitched. "If that's him, I swear." "I'll get it," Namjoon said, standing. He opened the door and didn't say a word. Because it was Jungkook. It was Yoongi. Jimin froze. Yoongi stepped inside, hands in the pockets of his jacket, eyes scanning Jimin like he was trying to measure how deep the damage went. "I heard," Yoongi said. "How?" "Taehyung called me. Said Jungkook left your place looking like death. Figured I'd check on the person who probably looks worse." "I'm fine." "No, you're not," Yoongi replied. "You're wearing the hoodie you only wear when you're about to spiral." Jimin looked down. "Damn it." Yoongi glanced at Namjoon. "Give us a minute." Namjoon nodded. "Text me." Once he was gone, Yoongi dropped onto the couch and looked at Jimin. "You don't have to talk," Yoongi said. "But if you want to punch something, I brought a bat and a list of Jungkook's favorite car windows." That almost made Jimin smile. "Almost." "I should have moved on," Jimin whispered. "Why did I?" "Because love makes you stupid, and loyal, and blind. I hate that he still has power over me." "You gave him that power. You can take it back." Jimin looked up sharply. "How?" "By writing your ending, not his." Yoongi leaned back, arms stretched over the couch. "You know what I did when my ex cheated on me? I forgave myself for staying too long, and then I left. Not for revenge, not for closure, just to choose me." Jimin swallowed hard. "But what if he comes back again?" Yoongi raised an eyebrow. "Then you slam the door so hard it echoes into his next relationship." Later that night, after Yoongi left and Namjoon texted a dozen check-ins, Jimin sat at the kitchen table with a notebook. He turned to the last page. There were only 2 words there. "Come back." He stared at them until the tears came. Slow, hot, relentless. Then he picked up a pen. And beneath Jungkook's words, Jimin wrote his own. "I did, and you ruined it." He tore out the page, folded it, and slid it into an envelope. He didn't send it. Some endings deserve to be written, not delivered. Because some wounds need silence more than closure. The studio was darker than Jungkook remembered. Or maybe he was just seeing things through a lens clouded by guilt. The familiar hum of the soundboard, the faint scent of coffee-stained floors and spent cigarettes, it all used to feel like home. Now it felt like a graveyard. He sat alone at the console, playing back an unfinished demo. It was his voice. The song was raw, stripped to piano and breath. He hadn't intended to finish it, but now it felt like the only thing left that hadn't turned to ash. A knock startled him. Taehyung stepped inside, wearing sunglasses indoors like he was hiding something, or maybe like he didn't want Jungkook to see the disappointment in his eyes. "You really screwed up this time." "I know." Taehyung took off the sunglasses and tossed them on the table. "You had one job. Don't break him again." "I didn't plan to." "But you did." Jungkook said nothing. The song continued to play behind them. His voice cracked on the high note. It sounded like someone begging for air. "You kissed someone else." Taehyung's voice was calm, but undercut with venom. "I was drunk, alone, it meant nothing." "You were his everything," Taehyung said coldly. "And you gave someone else what wasn't yours to give." "I hated myself for it the second it happened." "Then you should have hated yourself enough to confess it before walking into his house." Jungkook stood, angry now. "You think I didn't want to tell him? Every time I looked at him, I knew I didn't deserve him. But I kept hopping. I thought if I could just show him how much I've changed." "You don't show change through lies." "I didn't lie." "You omitted. That's the same thing when it comes to Jimin." Jungkook turned the song off. The silence that followed was unbearable. "I love him." Taehyung walked to the door. "Then prove it, but not with words, and not with letters. Prove it by staying gone until you're ready to carry the weight of what you did." Jungkook slumped into the chair as Taehyung left without another word. Across the city, Jimin stood in front of the mirror, face blank. The hoodie was gone. He wore a sharp black shirt, tucked neatly, collar crisp. It was armor, not fashion. His hands were steady for once. His eyes were not. He looked like someone trying to pretend he was okay, and doing a damn good job of it. Hosok leaned against the doorframe behind him. "You sure you want to go to this launch party tonight?" "It's business." "It's also the first time you'll see him in public since everything." Jimin shrugged, adjusting his cuff. "He's not coming." "You don't know that." "I don't care." Hosok raised an eyebrow. "You care." Jimin turned, deadpan. "And what would you have me do? Lock myself in my apartment? Cry into the pages of that stupid notebook? I'm done bleeding for him, Hobai." "You're not done," Hosok said softly. "You're just learning how to hide it better." Jimin grabbed his phone and keys. "Let's go." The event was louder than he expected. Cameras flashed the moment they entered the venue. Jimin smiled on cue, nodded politely, posed when necessary, but his mind wasn't there. He scanned every corner instinctively, old habits. He hated that he still searched for Jungkook in crowded rooms. He was sipping champagne when someone tapped his shoulder. He turned and saw her. The girl from Jungkook's notebook, the kiss. He knew it was her. There was a familiarity in her guilt. She knew who he was. "You're Park Jimin," she said quietly. "And you're irrelevant," he replied before walking away. She followed. "Wait, please." He stopped, spine stiff. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "He didn't say your name, not until afterward. I swear if I had known." "You wouldn't have kissed him." She looked at the floor. "I wouldn't have let it happen." Jimin exhaled through his nose. "He let it happen. You were just the proof that he'd already left me long before he walked out." "I'm sorry." "You don't owe me anything. But next time, don't fall for half a man pretending he isn't still tethered to someone else." He turned and walked away, leaving her pale and still. Later, at the bar, he found himself staring into his glass. "I thought I'd find you here." Jimin didn't turn around. "You were told not to come." Jungkook slid onto the stool next to him, ignoring the cameras. "I needed to." "I don't need this." "I saw her," Jungkook said. "I saw the look on your face." Jimin faced him now, eyes sharp. She said she didn't know about me, that you didn't say my name. I didn't think I had the right. You had one job, Jimin said, trembling. One, to love me out loud. But you kept me hidden, buried in half-written songs and journal pages no one would read. I was ashamed of myself, not you. That distinction no longer matters. I still love you. Stop saying that. Why? Because it doesn't fix anything. Because I can't keep loving someone who disappears whenever the truth gets hard. I'm still here. No, Jimin whispered. You're late, that's not the same thing. Jungkook reached for him. Jimin stepped back. I won't be your redemption arc, Jimin said. Find your healing somewhere else. I'm done being your ghost story. And with that, he walked away. For the first time, Jungkook didn't follow. And maybe that's when it finally ended. Not with a scream, not with a kiss, but with the absence of pursuit. Autumn arrived quietly that year. The trees outside Jimin's apartment had begun shedding their colors, fiery reds, deep golds, fading into brittle brown. Seoul grew colder, the nights stretching longer, the days moving like soft ripples in time. It had been 4 months since the launch party, since that final conversation, since Jimin walked away. He hadn't seen Jungkook since. Not in person, not by accident, not even in passing. It was as if the world had finally decided to honor the boundary Jimin had drawn with trembling hands and tear-stained resolve. But Jungkook was everywhere, in the headlines, on the billboards, in the quiet between songs. His comeback had been intense, brutally honest. Critics called his new music the most emotionally gutted album of the decade. Fans were obsessed. Obsessed with the heartbreak, the agony in his lyrics, the rawness in his voice. They didn't know Jimin had lived every line of it. He stopped listening after track 7. That one was called November 3rd, the date Jungkook left. He deleted the album the same night. But he couldn't delete the memories. The love hadn't vanished, it had just gone silent. Like background noise you only hear when the world around you is quiet enough. Some days were still hard. Some nights he caught himself dreaming of an embrace he no longer wanted to return. But he had stopped waiting, and that was something. Tonight he sat on the balcony, a thick scarf around his neck, a steaming mug of tea in his hands, and his legs curled beneath him. Yoongi's latest book lay open beside him, half-read. A gift from someone who never said, "I told you so." His phone buzzed. He hesitated. It was Jungkook. It was an email. Subject, unsent letter for you. From no reply at jungkookart.com. He stared at the subject line for a long moment before opening it. Inside was a single link, a short film. Curiosity against better judgment guided his fingers. The screen dimmed. The video began. It was black and white. Jungkook stood alone in a white room, nothing but a piano behind him. He didn't speak. He just sat, played. And then, without background music, without harmony, he looked into the lens. I know you'll never answer, he said, and I'm not asking you to. Jimin didn't blink. I needed to say this, not for you, for me, because if I ever fall in love again, I want it to be with the honesty you always deserved. He exhaled. I was a liar, a coward. I confused absence with growth. But you were always enough. I just wasn't brave enough to hold something that pure without breaking it. Silence. I won't contact you again. I won't stand in your light. This is me stepping back, not out of punishment, but respect. Because if love means anything at all, it means knowing when to let go. The screen faded. White, then black. Jimin closed the laptop slowly. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He just whispered, goodbye. And this time, he meant it. Some love stories aren't meant to be revisited. Some wounds aren't meant to scar into reminders. Sometimes, closure doesn't come with a door slamming or a message at 2 a.m. Sometimes, closure is a quiet night, a deep breath, and the decision to keep walking forward without turning around. That night, Jimin made dinner. He lit a candle. He played music that had nothing to do with Jungkook. He laughed at a sitcom rerun. He called Yoongi just to hear a familiar voice. And before bed, he wrote something in a notebook of his own. I loved you once. I don't need to love you forever to prove it was real. He closed it, placed it on the shelf, and left it there. Like the past, exactly where it belonged. In the morning, it snowed, and the city began again.